For a period of 7 days in mid-December of 2006, City Light crews worked around the clock to recover from one of the most damaging storms in recent history. Not since the Columbus Day storm of 1962 had the city witnessed such a windstorm.
The wind speeds that hit on the night of the 14th, 15th were all-time records at the SeaTac airport. And the gusts hit right at 69 miles an hour. And unlike other storms that we've had, one of the things that happened was whole trees were uprooted and knocked down.
Chris Heimgartner is the Customer Service and Energy Delivery Officer for City Light. It's his people who face the hard physical job of dealing with those uprooted trees and getting people's power restored. In the early morning hours of Friday, December 15th, when the sun came up and the wind was still blowing, it was obvious to City Light crews that there was no time to waste. Information had been pouring into the System Control Center that 65 feeders, the lines carrying the power from substations to neighborhoods and business districts, were down. The electrical system status map on the internal website showed that half of Seattle and its suburbs were red, an indication of areas without electricity. What the crews first saw was the devastation the combination of high winds and rain-soaked soils had done to the system. Entire trees had brought down poles and lines, often many in the same area. The tough decision on where to start to restore power lay with Heimgartner and his crew.
The first thing is around public safety. In hospitals, nursing homes, there's critical care facilities that aren't really identified as hospitals, but they fulfill the same role. And then you've got to look at things that your fire and police departments are telling you about, that you've got hazards that are out there, or critical intersections, or firehouses or police stations that are out of power, don't have backup generation, things that really deal directly with public safety. When you're done with that, what you want to look at is where can we restore the most customers the fastest, and that's almost always getting the major feeders, the backbone circuits back in service.
More than 175,000 customers, about half the entire system, were without electricity as of 6 a.m. on December 15th. However, that number would be cut in half to 82,500 customers without power as the first day ended. Darkness did not mean work stopped. Restoration work continued for 36 to 40 hours straight before the crews were able to take their first break. Over the next few days, City Light crews dealt with the enormity of the disaster.
We had 89 poles broken, almost 250 cross arms, almost 100 transformers were destroyed, about 34 miles of wire was down, hundreds of splices, hundreds and hundreds of services. It by far was the biggest damage that our system's ever sustained in a storm.
In the field, crews found that the damage was often greater than originally thought.
If you lay a 5,000-pound tree on these wires, things are going to break, you know. And a lot of times when these trees come down, they do some damage that you don't always see. Besides the wire getting damaged, there might be 4 or 5 poles back behind you or on either side of where the initial damage occurred.
Tom Caddy explains that restoring power isn't a matter of a crew simply showing up to a downed wire and fixing it. First, safety is number one. Electricity in feeders is 26,000 volts, so coordination between the System Control Center and field crews must be in place. The field crews and the dispatcher at the control center make sure that lines are de-energized before work starts. Crews are made up of several skills, including equipment operators, material control specialists, line workers, and the crew chiefs who coordinate the effort on site.
It's all a lot more time-consuming than a guy would, or a lot of people maybe in the public would think. You know, we have to coordinate with other groups, the people that bring the poles out, people that set the poles, and then us that come out and repair the lines and attach the wires to the poles.
Debris must be cleared. The broken trees add to the problems of clearing, since it usually takes chainsaws and heavy equipment to move the timber. Then down come the broken poles, which also must be moved by heavy lifting equipment. The new poles and cross arms must be assembled on site. This is more heavy work, some of it performed high above the ground in special buckets attached to hydraulic lifts. For just one pole, tons of debris has to be removed, and then the hardware is assembled and installed by City Light crews. This effort would be repeated dozens of times over the next week as the electricity was restored across the service area. By Saturday evening, customers without power had dropped to 32,500 as feeders were restored. Much more work remained as the smaller branches of the electrical system called laterals also were badly damaged. Trees also had taken out the laterals, so customers on the same feeder might have power while their neighbor on the next block was still in the dark. As City Light Superintendent Jorge Carrasco surveyed the damage still remaining on the system Saturday and Sunday, it became obvious that restoring the final 5% of customers was going to drag on for many more days than initially thought. The lateral system in the southern part of the service area had been badly damaged, much more than previously known. It would take the same long hours and effort by City Light crews to completely restore the final 18,000 customers who remained without power. City Light knew early on it was going to need some outside help to restore everyone.
The decision was made to call in outside help almost immediately. As a utility, you can't afford to have enough people on board just during a normal day to respond to a storm of that size.
However, this storm devastated the region, and the outside help normally available was busy dealing with damage to their own service territory. Help was available on the fifth day, Tuesday, from Pacific Corps, the utility that serves many areas of southern Washington and Oregon. And later in the week, some help was received from Snohomish Public Utility and Benton County Public Utility, providing service crews during the final restoration work on individual home service connections. Throughout the week, the City Light crews worked 17 hours on and 7 hours off. Tom Caddy said that public appreciation helped the workers maintain the grueling schedule.
Usually the public hates to see us because we're going to block the road or turn the power off, but when their power's already off, they like to see us. So they treat us real good, and it makes us feel good that we're appreciated, of course, and the guys, that's what we're here for. When we have a catastrophe like that, we like to come out, and it makes us feel good to be able to put these people back in power. So, you know, we get an adrenaline rush, and we appreciate the people appreciating us. And
thankfully, there was only one minor non-storm injury in the thousands of worker hours put toward the restoration effort. The final cost of this storm is estimated to be more than $7 million in damaged equipment and repairs. The long hours paid off because all customers got their power back before Christmas, and crews were able to spend the holiday with their families.
If I had every employee here with me today that was involved in the storm response, there are a couple of important messages that I'd like to share with you. One is thank you for your commitment and your hard work in responding to the storm and in taking care of our customers. And the second thing that I'd like to say is here's a great opportunity for us to learn from our experience in this storm event and to be better prepared for whatever might be the next event that we have to respond to. Thank you again for all your good job.